Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. I didn't know that the whole agenda was changed for me to be here, but I'm really glad that I get to be here and start my morning with you. I have the deepest respect and just admiration for Colonel Page and the work that CCNA does. I find that there's really no organization like yours that not only leverages their power to convene people and talk about the most pressing issues in our community, but I find every time I'm in the room with CCNA, it's always about how do you take what we are talking about, how do you take what we're learning about, and then how do we do something? How do we act and mobilize resources, both within our organizations, but also across the community? And I think that's where the power is. It's one thing to keep talking about the issues we face. It's another thing to figure out our collective power to do something about it. As I was thinking about what I would say today and kind of my drive over here, for some reason God took my mind back to my first year at the University of Pittsburgh, which is where I got my master's in public health. I remember our opening orientation session, and the dean came in and he gave a presentation that was focused on what is health. I think everyone in this room is going to recognize this definition, but the entire presentation was based on the World Health Organization's definition, that our health is not simply the absence of disease or infirmity, but it is the complete state of physical and mental well-being. And I remember in my mind thinking, well, that's just kind of common sense. You know, I grew up in a family where my mom had a number of health issues. She had asthma and diabetes. We constantly received the greatest health care that you could get in the emergency room at UPMC, but she was always sick. She was always sick because every time we left that emergency room or we left our doctor visits, we went home to a home that had mold and rodents and other issues that even with the best medication, you're still going to be navigating challenges. So for me, I was like, why would this definition be so transformative? Why is this a call to action that every young public health student should be rallying around? And in his presentation, I remember him saying the words that we heard earlier from Raul, which is, this is a declaration that there is no health without mental health. That at the end of the day, we can have all the programs and initiatives and work that we think is important, but if we're not getting at the root and recognizing that the things people are navigating in their homes, in their minds, in their communities, prevent them from reaching their full health potential. And so I'm excited about this conversation. I think we've already given Natalie many shout outs, but I know she's going to give an in-depth presentation on not just the state of health in our community, but what are the challenges and the opportunities we're facing as it relates to addressing mental health. How are we making sure that every person has the ability to cope and navigate everyday stressors? How are we making sure that they have the resources and supports to be able to work and engage in the community? At the end of the day, our mental health is key to how we think, how we interact, how we have agency over our lives, and the things that impact our ability to engage and live in this community. And so what my challenge would be to you is, as we hear the data, as we meet new people, as we think about different partnerships, I think there's really three things we need to be thinking about. The first is, what are the things we're doing that are working? What is working that if we had more people doing that or more resources dedicated to that, we could make a transformative difference as it relates to mental health in our community? What are the things, the second question, and I find this question sometimes the hardest, what are the things we might need to stop doing? If we're truly serious about new partnerships and new ways of working, there may be things that maybe they're not as impactful as we think they are. And so what is the data telling us? What are community voices telling us? What are your lived experiences telling us that we might need to do differently? And then I think the third question, and this is often my favorite, is what else is possible? I believe that we have the opportunity to be a city of possibility. There may be things that we have not thought about trying because that wasn't the right time. But now we are navigating a new moment. A moment where, I think many are worried about the state of our democracy, where we're worried about whether or not we're going to be able to put food on our table, where we're worried about whether or not our neighbors are going to be able to walk outside their homes and safely live in this community. And so that's going to require us to try the things that maybe we were afraid to try or that we didn't know this community was possible of trying. So I hope that is the conversation that we're going to engage in. I also hope that you know that this is a city council that is deeply committed to being your partner in this work. help us understand what we're doing well, what we need to stop doing, and how we could better support you. Because at the end of the day, the hope comes from the fact that every system that we've created in terms of how people access mental health services and resources, how people engage, how they move throughout our community, those were created by people. And so every one of us can change them. And so with that, I want to say thank you again for having me. I apologize I'm not able to stay the full day, but I know Colonel Page will give me a full report and a to-do list of things that I need to take accountability for. But I thank you for your commitment, I thank you for showing up, and I thank you for being our city's partner in this work.